Hi everyone, welcome back. Today I thought I would talk about art journaling. So in this video I'm just going to be showing you how I approach sketchbooks in a non-judgmental, not serious, it is serious, but I think we take art, and especially our sketchbooks, a little bit too seriously. And I found that if I call it art journaling, a little bit like my written journals that I talked about last week, I'm not committed to them. With my written journals, if I want to write about something and get things out, if I don't want people to read it, which I don't, I tend to rip them up and throw them away straight away. I don't throw my art journaling pieces away, but I come to it with the same kind of mindset. I don't care if this never gets seen by anybody. I hope they don't. And so when I approach my art journaling, I specifically go in with no judgment. So some people call it art journaling because they use it like a mix between a diary and a sketchbook. But for me, it's just a private space where I can experiment, and it's like a playground for ideas. None of these things in my sketchbooks are finished. None of them are good. Guarantee I hate them when I'm doing them. But I do them anyway because just playing, going, oh, I wonder what happens if I do this. I wonder what happens if I add this colour. What about splashing? What about scraping? It's just so liberating. So with this kind of exploration, there are no rules. You can record your feelings, or you can get some anger out. You can process things that have happened to you and you just want to explore them. For me, it's all about creating freely without judgment and just making myself come to art without pressure. Sometimes it does help me process emotions. Sometimes I'll write a word on the sketchbook and then I'll add colour and collage and just scribble and get things out, ideas that I've been thinking. Sometimes I just scribble an idea for a composition, so it'll be a thumbnail and where I want to put things. Sometimes it does spark bigger ideas for actual artworks, but more often than not, these ideas and experiments never see the light of day. But it's so relaxing. It takes me away from screens, it takes me away from pressure, it takes me away from all my to-do lists. And when you get into the zone of enjoying playing, it's really meditative. You've got into that. When people say create like a child, this is what they mean. Children don't care what they make. They don't really focus on judgment or the outcome. They just enjoy the process. And when you get into the flow of just enjoying the process, sometimes you come up with great ideas, but more often than not, you just come away feeling like you've had a holiday. So I do tend to keep my old sketchbook pieces, even though I don't particularly want people to see them, but I keep them anyway. One, because it's like a visual timeline of my life. I can remember what I was doing and what I was thinking of feeling at certain particular moments. But often I look back on the things that I absolutely hated when I was making them, really hated, like proper thought I was going nowhere in life and I didn't know what I was doing, and obviously I was a loser and what am I even doing with my life. And when I flick through those old journals and those old sketchbooks, there are some absolute jewels in there. Not perfect finished pieces, but some great ideas, some great textures. I remember doing some teacup studies, and I thought I was like a chimp with an origami kit. I just couldn't get it to look like a teacup. But when I look back now and I'm looking at them, all I see is personality. And it's the type of personality that if you try too hard to get and polish your pieces, you just lose it. And I was trying for a polished piece, and instead what I got was really stylized and very, very personal. And now looking back at it, I love it, but at the time I was convinced it was rubbish. So I do keep all my old journals, and every once in a while I'll have a flick through. I'm always surprised by how much I like my stuff. So if you want to start art journaling or experimenting and playing, I can recommend getting a cheap journal or a cheap sketchbook, because the more you spend on it, the more precious you're going to be about it. You'll want to produce art grade gallery work that you want to be able to show people in a nice sketchbook. So get something cheap and nasty. Right now I'm using Royal Talon's art creation sketchbooks. They're a really good paper, but they're not too pricey, so I would totally recommend them. Nice paper, ivory, not white, and yeah, I'm never too precious about them because they're quite affordable. If you don't know how to start with a doodle. I would recommend getting yourself a mix of waterproof fine liners, some brush pens maybe, a couple of chunky markers, some gouache or a watercolour set, something cheap, nothing expensive. You don't need all the colours in the world. That's another thing. When we start out in art, we think we need all the colours. You don't. Just get about 5 or 6 solid colours that you love and work with them. If you're into collage like me, I recommend keeping a stack of old books or magazines that you don't mind cutting up, and make your own papers as well. And also you need scissors and glue, obviously. And then there are other things you can try, like washi tape, stickers, stencils. You don't need them, but they are quite fun to play with and to zone out playing with. You don't need fancy art supplies, so that's the main takeaway of this, is playtime does not need fine art materials. Okay, if you want to start and you don't know where to start, like I say, start with doodles, start with scribbles. Often I start with layering, because I layer up as I go along. I don't create flat pieces. So I'll start with a wash of paint, maybe glue down scraps of paper or doodle on them. And then keep layering the paint up over and over and over again. Keep collaging on top of what I've already collaged. If I'm really stuck, I can use prompts. So I'll give myself a word to work around, like maybe birds, windows, folk art, whatever, or borders, squares. But usually when I start with those prompts, I quickly ignore them because I'm enjoying the process so much. If you really dislike a page you've come up with, leave it. Just leave it. Come back to it in a day or two. If you still hate it, gesso over it, paint over it, start again, glue something on it. It just doesn't really matter. So yeah, pick one notebook that you're not afraid to mess up with, get some cheap supplies, and just start playing, because there is nothing in the world like being able to play like a child and have no judgment and have no care in the world about what it turns out like. So if you want to add to your meditative practice as well as written journals, I really highly recommend art journaling, and I really hope you get something out of it like I do.